Welcome to the Brandinc PR podcast, where we dive deep into the stories and strategies of today's most impactful entrepreneurs, business leaders, and professionals. Whether you're building your brand, scaling your business, or just looking for inspiration, you're in the right place. Hello, and welcome back to the Brandinc PR podcast. I am your host, Brandy Sims, and today I actually have a special guest with me, Larry Neymar, who is the co-founder of E Entertainment and also an entertainment and media entrepreneur of Movies USA magazine. Super stoked to have this conversation with you, Larry. How are you doing today?
Doing well. It's been busy. Last week was Oscar week and everybody was in
Yes.
town. So it was, 2-3 parties every single night and
Woo.
stuff. So,
Okay, so you're a bit partied out is what that's telling me.
yeah. Award season is pretty hectic when you're out in LA.
Oh, 100%. I have no doubts about that. And certainly with your background and your expertise, I'm sure that it's probably a cakewalk for you because you've been in this industry so long. But, there's still going to be those moments where you're just like, okay, I am tired. I have done
Yeah.
all the things. I have partied it up with you guys. Now I need me time.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. It's so couple with award season, and then you mentioned I just put out a book about a month ago. So having to do all this marketing support for the book. So it's been
Yes.
a little crazy.
Well, hey, I think that's the perfect segue to get right into it, right? So I didn't include that in your title, but you are now a published author. So I definitely would love to hear from you because you, of course, have a new book. It's called Off Script Recipes for Success, and how it details your journey throughout media and entertainment and how you were able to create successful businesses, projects, and so on. Definitely want to hear from you. Just what got you started? Let's start there. What really got you started, and to say that even entrepreneurship in general, that this was something that you would want to do? And then, of course, fast forwarding into today,
Mm.
that you would decide to make a book about it and make a book about those experiences that led you to the success that you have.
Sure. Well, yeah, um, nothing was the plan.
Mm.
Um, I grew up in an area of Brooklyn. Brooklyn is now gentrified now in New York. But the area I grew up is still the hood. Coney Island never really changed, and so it's a pretty tough neighborhood. But and we really didn't think of ourselves as poor because everybody lived the same, and we just thought that's the way life is supposed to be. Um, but my father family came from Turkey, and their aspiration for their children was, get a civil service job and be able to retire at 65 and know that you had the security and you could pay the rent and eat and do all of that. But I ended up being the first and only kid to go to college. And I graduated. I had a degree in economics. I was a straight C student, and so there's no magic there. But when I got out, I couldn't get a job with an economics degree. I mean, the job openings for economists were pretty slim, and I ended up knowing someone who's in the electrical workers union, and they said, "Oh, we organize this thing. It's called cable TV. I don't know if anybody will ever pay for television, but here's the number of the union guy there. Go see him, and we'll tell him to give you a job." So they did, and they gave me a job as an assistant underground splicer. So every day my job was to go under the streets of New York with the cockroaches and the rats and put the wires together and stuff. And they paid me $90 a week. And but I kind of grew up from there. I mean, of course, I knew how to read and write. I could read all the instruction booklets and stuff. So I kind of rose. Um, Up the ladder, so I went from an assistant splicer to a splicer to a construction guy to a serviceman, and then Time Incorporated. It was then Time before Time Warner. There was It was basically a publishing company, but they made a decision to become a media company over time, and they so somebody there, so here I am with my college degree, being the only one on the side that really built the stuff. And they and you had all the Harvard and Yaleys there, so they found they could relate to me because I know how to read and write. And so eventually they just said, "Look, we want you to come into management." So after a lot of convincing, I moved into management, and I think I was 25. They made me the director of operations at Manhattan Cable, so the biggest cable company in the country. I was now the head of all the workers who put together the wires and did all the building and stuff. And I think I had like 305 people reporting to me, which was kind of weird because they were all older. Um, and I at one point I worked for those guys, and now I'm in charge of those guys. And so I knew a lot about building underground cable systems. And then when all the cities began to think about having cable, they all started issuing franchises. But the caveat in just about all of them was they didn't want the wires to go on telephone poles. They wanted the wires to go underground. Well, the only person who knew how you build underground cable systems in the country was me. So I got recruited to come out to California to build the Los Angeles system, which was, going to be the biggest cable system in the country then. And it was going to be the first 61 channel, two-way interactive cable system. And, so eventually they made me the offer I couldn't refuse. So I moved to LA. And, when you're in LA, everybody is in the entertainment business. You're in it or your neighbors are in it and stuff like that. There are very few cities of size that are dominated by a single industry. I mean, you could say Detroit is the automotive industry, but LA it's the media and entertainment world. And I would call the studios and say, "Hey, I want you to put me on a list. I want to go to all those parties and premieres." And they were like, you're like the telephone company or the gas company. You're a utility. No, we're not gonna put you on our press list." And then finally, I got somebody in marketing, and I said, "Hey, you know, the most effective marketing vehicle you have for a movie is the movie trailer." I said, "It's usually better than, that 2 minutes is usually better than the movie." And they said, "Yeah, but, we can't put that on television." And I said, "Why not?" They said, "It's too expensive." I said, "Okay, tell you what, you give me those trailers for free. I'll put them on TV, but you got to put me on those lists." And they went, "Yeah, sure, we'll do that." And yeah, and then when we started doing, I hired a kid, I think, for $3 an hour, and we edited them together. And we started doing market surveys. We go, "What's your favorite channel?" People go, "Oh, I love CNN. I love MTV. I love that trailer channel." And I'm going, "Wait a second. I'm getting the best 2 minutes of a $50 million movie for free, and people are loving it." So I kind of filed that in the back of my head. And then the company I worked for, which was a Canadian company, they sold out and said, "Okay, you'll come back and work with us in Toronto." And I was like, "No, no, no." I said, "I didn't go from New York to LA to go to Toronto." I said, "I'm done with the cold." So me and my friend Alan Marufka, we said, "Let's come up with some, ideas that would keep me in LA." And he's going, "Yeah, I've been playing around with this idea, of Entertainment Tonight 24 hours a day." And I'm like, "Huh, that's interesting." I said, "Because I did this thing with movie trailers." I said, "When you think about it, it was the early days of MTV. And MTV then would stand a host in front of a green screen and they'd point to it and go, and Madonna has the new video." And I said, "We could do the movie trailers and stand a host in front of a green screen and go, and Schwarzenegger has a new movie." I said, "Essentially, it's the same arm movement." And so we thought we were brilliant. We wrote a plan. We took it around. Everybody basically said it's not a bad idea, but people don't start TV networks. Only big media companies start TV networks. And at that point, the going rate to start a TV network was somewhere between 60 and $100 million.
Oof.
And after, um, well, it's small by today by this what followed, but um, the after 3.5 years of not raising 10 cents, um, we finally met someone who um, who worked at a bond house that just started investment banking. And when we met this guy, he's like, "Oh, I really love this, and I want to do it. I used to be the entertainment reporter for my college newspaper." And we're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Could you give us more like 100 so we could do everything we want?" And he goes, "Oh, no, no, no." He goes, "I'm only allowed to sign for 2.5." And we're like, "What do we do with $2.5 million? I mean, it costs 60 to 100." And he goes, "Well, that's all I can sign for." Anyway, um, we finally said, "You know what? We'll take it." And I actually had, I mean, from where you are, it's funny because I do have a long relationship with UT Texas in Austin. So I had a friend who was teaching there, and I called him up and said, "Brian, do you have a lot of kids that need intern jobs?" He goes, "Yeah, we had a hard time placing people." I said, "Send me all you got." So Brian sent 31 interns from UT Texas in Austin, and people don't realize because he is so big now. He started with 11 employees and 31 interns from UT. Um, and he wasn't really happy with me because they started out as interns at the beginning of the summer, but then once we went on the air, people are going, "Oh my God, that's so cool! Why don't you tell us that's what you wanted to do? We would have given you the money 3 years ago." These kids started as interns, and by the end of the summer, half of them were vice presidents. We literally grew that big and that fast. We were the fastest growing TV network in the US, and after the first year we're in 14 different countries, and now he's in 142 countries, and arguably it's the biggest influencer of pop culture in the world. I mean, you just look at everything from Howard Stern to Ryan Seacrest to the Kardashians.
Mhm. 100%. I mean, I'm just thinking as you're speaking of all the TV shows that I would tune in, and I kind of mentioned this offline of just how much entertainment was influential in my life because it was a part of my circulation. Yeah, I had my time where I watched TRL to see what new music videos were out. And then I would quickly go back to Entertainment to see, okay, what's the new doc that's coming out and just what's going on in celebrity life and what's going on in fashion because I was really influenced by it. So you are so right on. And so to speak with you about this is just honestly surreal. And I get a lot of nostalgia in my millennial age of
Yeah,
just all of the wonderful memories that I have of entertainment. And then just even taking it a step further and thinking about all of the stars that came out of the
yeah,
time of your creation. That's what this was. This was your creation. And it was so innovative at the time because you're so right in that nothing was like it. There was no network like this where you could watch entertainment for 24 hours, all
yeah.
entertainment, all day, every day, something that's going on in the entertainment industry. There was nothing like it, not in this capacity. Absolutely not. So, do you feel like you're an innovator in that sense?
Um, I up until I wrote the book, no. Um, yeah, because it just kind of moved. I just kind
Yeah.
of go from one to another, and to me, it all felt so natural. And I'm
Mhm.
going, why are people amazed? I mean, I figured out that people around the world love Hollywood celebrities and Hollywood
Yeah.
gossip. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not rocket science. Now, that said, we did execute it really, really well.
Yeah.
It was Alan and I, and there's that saying that necessity is the mother of invention.
Mm.
I mean, we didn't have a lot of money. I mean, again,
Yeah.
everybody was spending minimum 60 to start a network, and we had 2.5.
Yeah.
Um, so we had to be very careful with how we spent money. And stuff. We didn't even have enough money to buy professional broadcast equipment. We ended up finding some big corporation that had old equipment they were using for sales training tapes, and we bought that. And it looked like garbage at the beginning, but people would be watching and they go, "Oh my God, that's like so cool! It looks like it's pirate TV." Um,
Mm.
and then the first show we did, which took all everybody thought I was nuts when I said I want to do a TV show that makes fun of TV shows, and that show was Talk Soup. And
Ah.
you remember all the people that came over there, starting with
Yes.
Greg Kinnear and Aisha and Joel McHale and
Hmm.
Henson and stuff like that. Uh, it was a great training ground for a lot of talent. to really learn to be spontaneous and funny and good. And and people made fun of it, at the beginning. And go, Larry, you're out of mind. You can't do a TV show that makes fun of TV shows. And I'm like, why not? We're not,
Why
we're
not?
not, we're not curing cancer here. I mean, it's supposed to be funny and light. And that show ended up running 26 years. People don't realize that it was
Wow.
Talk Soup and then The Soup, but it was the same show. And and then the next one we met this tall radio host. We met in an elevator in New York, and he was telling us how great his radio show was, and we were like, yeah, but so what? Radio's dead 40 years.
Hmm.
Um, he goes, no, you got to come and see it. So we went and we saw it, and I looked at it. There was an old TV show um, that was WKRP in Cincinnati, which is all about a group that it was a sitcom about people who did a radio show. So when I went and looked at the show, and the guy just so happens to be named Howard Stern, um, we looked at it and said, this is a reality version of a sitcom. It's not a radio show. And, and then when we told the production crew, they were like, Larry, when you wanted to do the Talk Soup thing, we thought you were out of your mind, but now you're really out of your mind. You can't, who cares about watching a radio show on television? And Howard obviously went on to do pretty well. And stuff like that. But then what we started getting money, and we were able to start doing Wild on E&E, Hollywood True Story, and E News became really, really big, and
Hmm.
still is, still going strong. And and then Ryan Seacrest, and last but not least, we have those Kardashians.
Yeah. Yes. And they've become just a influencer giant in and of itself that has gone
Yeah.
onto multiple brands within the brand, and all can definitely, and I'm sure they speak on this quite frequently, can be credited to the experience and the exposure they were able to achieve on entertainment. That was their stomping grounds,
Yeah.
to
It,
pivot them
it
into that.
it was, and and again, because we didn't have a lot of money, we realized we had to be very creative and inventive.
Mhm.
So probably, and this is just conjecture on my part,
Mhm.
um, there probably wasn't another network around that would have taken a chance on doing the Kardashian show. Um,
Yes.
at that point. But when you have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to fill, we're going, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. Turn on the cameras, and uh, so we just tried a lot of stuff, because we weren't afraid of failing. We said if it doesn't work, we'll do something else.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you know what? Just in everything that you're saying, I think it speaks so much to your entrepreneurial journey and being able to take something with very minimal resources and make it something extraordinary. And I think that just speaks to that. So I'm definitely excited to dive into your book and read more about this, as well as just hearing you even now is just so inspiring, because this is something that entrepreneurs often are challenged and tasked with. I don't have a lot of resources. I don't have a lot of context. What can I do to really pivot and get into what exactly I want to grow this thing into? And it sounds like, hearing from you, is like it takes a lot of grit, but also it sounds like you had a lot of strategy, even in your being young. You had a lot of strategy behind you and thinking, okay, like, how can I collaborate? How can I partner here? How I don't have this, but I do have this. What can I do to leverage that? It seems like you were thinking smart right out the gate so that you were able to pivot from one space to another to keep and continue building it from the point that it was to what it is now today, in our pop cultural history.
Yeah, and again, what we did, and again, looking back, I mean, we didn't think of this at that time.
Yeah.
We said with limited amount of money, where can we spend it? We said we're not going to dazzle anybody with fancy production values, and
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, we couldn't even afford cameras,
Yeah.
and we just said, using that MTV kind of formula. And again, early days, we had no money for market research. So we
Mhm.
used to watch MTV and go, okay, they spend $1 zillion on market research and they're doing this. And so all we got to do is just follow, their research. I mean, they were kind of doing it for us. And we said the most important thing that we could do is pick hosts that people either love or hate, but feel something for.
Mm.
And a lot of people look at me and they go, "Oh, Larry, you were so lucky you had all those great hosts." Well, that was not luck. That was the strategy. And we had the initial hosts were Greg Kinnear went on to win the Academy Award, and Mark DiCarlo and did Studs, and Katie Wagner did Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and
Mhm.
Julie Moran was the first woman to do Wide World of Sports, and on and on and on. And but that was not luck. What people don't realize, to get those first hosts, we interviewed almost 10,000 people, and we put 7,200 people on tape.
Mhm.
That day you needed to use tape, but so that was not a mistake. I mean, that was the smartest thing we did, because people would watch it. I mean, people would tell me, "Oh, I love that Greg Kinnear when he makes from it." He couldn't even read the teleprompter at first, and they go, "Oh, when he makes a mistake and he rolls his eyes, he's the cutest guy we've ever seen." And um,
Mm.
so yeah, so that was really, probably, if I had to pick one thing that we did amazingly smart, was we just said whatever resources we have, we're putting into finding hosts that just going to kill it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So many entrepreneurs, they dream of being able to create something that is as impactful as E. What advice would you give for those that are trying to break into media business today in this current climate? Hey, hey, business rock stars. Got big PR plans for 2025? Then you need the 2025 PR Plan and Workbook. It's your step by step guide to owning the media spotlight, building buzz, and making big moves this year. And guess what? Early bird pricing is live right now, but it won't last long. So why pay more later when you can snag it now and save those extra coins for coffee runs during media pitch marathons? I don't know. Go grab it today, because once it's gone, well, you'll be wishing you hit that buy button sooner. Let's make 2025 your breakout year. Early bird pricing ends soon. Visit brandingpr.com/resources.
In today's world, I would never do a linear television network, because technology has advanced so much.
Mm.
And I've always gone by this rule saying, do you want to watch what you want to watch on the device you want to watch it, when you want to watch it? Or do you want to watch what NBC wants you to watch when they want you to watch it? Well, back in the linear TV days, you had no choice. Things had to be on at 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock. Um, but now everything could be on demand with digital technology. Everything's on demand, and I could watch things on my cell phone. I could watch them on my big TV and stuff like that. So I would do it a heck of a lot differently
Mm-hmm.
today. So I think, number one, people need to pay attention to technology. Not only where is technology today, but where is technology logically going to go, likely
Yes.
to go, um, and plan for that. But the other thing in the media world, when I got involved in media, and I would do a business plan for Time Incorporated back then, I would do the financials, and then you would weight them 95% U.S. and then 5% other. I mean, we didn't even give the rest of the world names. It was just the rest of the world was other. Uh, but if you look at it today, if I do a business plan, it's 30% U.S. and then there's Russia, and there's China, and there's Korea, and there's South America. There's Brazil, and all of that. The U.S. now is only 30% of the global media market. So
Mm-hmm.
when you program, you got to really be thinking of the fact that a lot of people that are not in the U.S. are going to be watching these shows, and how do you make it appeal to more of a global audience than a U.S. centric audience, the way it used to be? So it really is a lot of you got to think of the world of entertainment, not the Hollywood of entertainment. Again, back then, if you wanted to make visual entertainment, you had to come to Hollywood. because you needed the big sound stages, and the cameras were $250,000 a piece. And um, but now I can take my cell phone. I could go to any country in the world and make a movie tomorrow on my cell phone. Um, so to me,
Yep.
it's like realize that Hollywood is no longer a geographic place. It's a measure of creativity. It's a measure of quality, but it's not the place you have to come to make entertainment. You can do it anywhere in the world now.
No, you're exactly right. Especially with the advances of technology, it allows for that to exist and to happen. I think that's partly the reason why we have such an influence by content creators, not just the
Yeah,
influencers. We've always had that. They were called celebrities, and they still are.
they
But
are.
no, content creators, those that are literally doing videos out of their backyard and it goes viral and gets millions of views. These types of
Yeah,
views were things that we didn't see, but only in traditional TV. It was on TV, it was on radio, it was on through subscribers and magazines and newspapers. Now we're getting eyeballs on the digital world, and it has really changed the game in many ways.
yeah.
So, one thing I want to definitely talk about in kind of segue into the technology piece of this, but still kind of maintaining the business aspect, right? So the business of media has changed obviously dramatically, very dramatically, and with the rise of streaming, digital platforms, and of course AI, because that's a whole thing now, right?
Mhm.
How should entrepreneurs in media and entertainment adapt to these changes in your purview?
Well, I mean, first you got to really think of global audiences and
Mhm.
stuff, and I'll get into AI. I'm a big AI fan, so I'll get into that in
Yeah.
a second. But you know, I'll give you a silly statistic. If you look at, you remember the TV show Gossip Girl?
Yes. Yes, I
Okay,
do.
so
Hmm.
Gossip Girl was actually in China. They had that show in China. Somebody was doing it, um,
Mm.
and there are more fans of Gossip Girl in China than there are members of the Communist Party in China.
I
So
didn't
you
know that.
think about that, which is crazy. It's a crazy number.
Yeah.
Um, a girl who's growing up in China, who's a fan of Gossip Girl, has much more in common with a girl in the U.S. or in Brazil or something, uh, who's a fan of Gossip Girl than she has with her neighbor in China. I mean, media brings people together and provides this common base of background and things they like and stuff. And now you couple it with AI and new technology. I mean, I'm doing in after the summer, we're doing an award show out of Las Vegas, that really I call the Oscars of the metaverse, because the in the U.S. we our guilds and our unions and stuff don't
Yeah.
recognize the changes. I mean, I look at it. I watched the Academy Awards the other night, and there's this one category, best foreign film, and I'm like, what's a foreign film? I don't get it. There's good films, there's bad films, but what's a foreign film?
Right.
Um, you can make films anywhere in the world,
Yeah.
and recognize that in the TV world, we used to, going, oh my God, I'm going to do this TV show. I got to make it very American because that's going to be, the
Mm.
primary audience, which is no longer. But then you'd also start to think of how you wrote this show, and you go, oh man, what if they play this in Germany? And I'm writing the dialogue for English, but they're going to murder it when they dub it into German, um, and stuff, because we could have a very quick word for something, and in German it could be a long, big word and stuff.
Mhm.
And you could look at it and go, "Oh, that looks so terrible," that the dubbing is awful. But now with AI, I mean, one of the things we're doing with this award show is showing how new technology really could come into play. So the feed will go out on a Zoom feed on steroids, let's call it.
Mhm.
Um, so anybody who has Zoom anywhere in the world can watch the show. And in order to watch it, you need to get the token, which is recorded on the blockchain, so it becomes irrefutable proof that you watched the show. Um, and the host speaks. We go out to Las Vegas. The host speaks English, but because it's IP based, we know where you're watching from. So in France, if you're watching from France, even though our host is speaking English, we're using AI to do instantaneous translation. So in
Mm,
France, the host speaks French. In Spain, he speaks Spain Spanish. In Mexico, he speaks Mexican Spanish. And even to the point where we're using an AI program to manipulate the facial muscles so that when you watch it in France, he's speaking French.
mm.
Which totally changes. Now when I write a show, I go, I don't have to worry about how bad the dubbing is going to be
Yeah.
because we're not going to do that.
Wow, 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 wow. Just to see this tool become so useful and so helpful in the media business, it's a game changer. It's definitely a game changer. And
Yeah,
I feel like there's some people that still feel some kind of way about it. They look at AI like, oh, it's going to take my job. I'm not adopting it. I'm not doing it. And I'm like, that, if you're thinking of it in that way, you're thinking of it all wrong. It
yeah,
is very much a tool, not a replacement. And that is something that I emphasize with everyone I talk to when we get into the media conversation. It's like, listen, like they're not taking our jobs. You can't take the place of a writer. You can't take the
no,
place of a producer and so on and so forth. This is to help you be more efficient. That's it. It's not a replacement. And those that are using it as a replacement, they're going to quickly find out like it can't be, because you lose that human essence when
yeah,
you're relying just on chat gpt to just write for you. And people can pick up on that. They can tell when, something is you ran it through chat gpt or you ran it through ai, because it comes across very robotic. So
yeah,
those tweaks and those adaptions that are made to make it more personable, that's the human touch. So
yeah,
very much it's meant to be more efficient. And it sounds like, just based on what you're saying, it has been an incredibly helpful resource to make your work more efficient.
yeah. I mean, even I've been, like I say, a big fan.
Yeah.
I was even pre Chat GPT,
Yeah.
um, but if you were to ask me, say, Larry, could you come up with a plan for starting a TV network about spoons or whatever? It used to take me 5 days to do the research, to write it down, to do competitive analysis
Yeah.
and all of that stuff. Now, by using, well, now, I'm up to GBT 4 and soon to be 5, I guess. I What used to take me 5 days, I plug it in and it spits it out in 30 seconds. It's never right. It's never 100%. It's 80%. And
Mm-hmm.
then it takes me an hour to go back in and edit and clean it up and whatever. And, I say to people in, the guilds and the unions here, I go, so now in 1 hour, I'm doing what used to take me 5 days. I said,
Mm.
how do you not love that? I said, I could either do more of them and make more money, or I could learn how to speak Spanish. I could spend more time with my grandbaby. I've reclaimed time, and as human beings, we all are living on this planet. We have a finite amount of time
Yeah.
on this planet, and to be able to reclaim 5 days, I mean, God, how do you not love it?
Exactly, exactly. It's not only a changer, I could say it, but it's also I feel like a lifesaver there too, because you're right, you're reclaiming your time, and I think that is worth everything. So yeah, for those that are just considering it or on the fence, like you've got to get out of your head with that one and just bring it into the fold and just enjoy the efficiency that is the process of chat
Yeah,
and AI. It's been incredibly helpful. My team adopted it very early on, because I run a PR agency, and for us it's been incredible. But to even to your point, to cut 5 days into about an hour, that's worth it. So
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it makes such a difference. So I know we've talked a lot about media, and I really want to get in, and we've also talked about business and so many other aspects of it. But I want to talk a little bit too about strategy, right? So we all know that media, it's not just about the content. It's just not about just pushing out information and pushing out engaging pieces of it. It's a business, right? And we want to make it a profitable business, and it is a profitable business
mm,
for many that engage in it. So, what are the key revenue strategies that media startups should consider to stay profitable?
Well, I think I'm actually people laugh because I'm the anti follow your passion person. Um,
Okay.
Everybody is, oh, follow your passion and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's a quick way to end up homeless on the street or not be able to feed your kid or
Mm,
whatever. You got to be very honest with yourself. I mean,
yeah.
I literally wake up with 10 new ideas every day. By the time I go to sleep, but I self assess every night
Yeah.
and I look at stuff and I go, you know what? I thought that was brilliant in the morning, but boy, was that dopey. Get rid of it next. Again, the most important thing we have is time. When you follow your passion, if you can't see the path to profitability, then that project is not sustainable because eventually life takes over.
Yeah.
You have kids, you got to pay the rent, you got to eat, whatever. And yeah, I find so many people they just keep following their passion when they should have let it go. I mean,
Mm,
geography changes, technology changes, and whatever. It might have been a good idea yesterday, but doesn't mean it's still a good idea or it's ever going to be anything. So I always tell young entrepreneurs, I say, you know what? Find something that you're good at and just work it, work it, work it, and become great at it. And that will become your passion. Um, if I would have followed my passion, I would be a cook in a restaurant somewhere, because my passion is cooking. It's not I
yeah.
mean, I obviously pretty good at the media stuff,
Yes.
but my passion is cooking.
Yeah.
um so where would I have been if I followed my passion versus started something saying, hey, you know what, I'm pretty good at this, let
Yeah.
me let me become great at it.
Yeah.
um, and that's kind of the advice I give people is just be honest with yourself. I mean, your passions could become your hobbies. Like I still love cooking and stuff, and I read cookbooks every month. And um, but by having the luxury of having businesses that are profitable, I then have the luxury of being passionate about my cooking.
See, I feel like it almost is a full circle moment there. You
Yeah,
were able to get back to your passion, but it was through the hard work and the efforts of what you were good at and recognizing it early on that, listen, we've got to pay bills. Like, I'm not going
yeah,
to be the starving artist. And I feel like your advice is so important and so beneficial, especially for those startups and those entrepreneurs that are in that position and really thinking, okay, well, I mean, I think I really like this. I want to do this. This is my passion, but I really don't have the resources. I really don't have this. And it's kind of an uphill battle with this one, especially when
yeah,
you're talking about innovation and things that just haven't existed before, right? So it is that coming to terms with, like, you have to be realistic in all of this. You have to still pay your bills. Like, there's no going around that. If you have a family, even more responsibility.
yeah,
So it's almost like, I think people need that reality check and that insight and that really that advice just to say, like, listen, you can follow your passion, but first, let's make sure that we're okay and we're stable. I think that is
yeah.
a little
I
bit
mean,
more important than
well,
kind of
and
following what you love.
you want to constantly be looking and saying,
Yeah.
okay, I can follow my passion, but is there any chance that this passion will not never lead to profitability or sustainability? And
Mhm.
if it can't be sustainable, you're not going to be able to continue to do it.
Mhm.
File it in the back, get back to it when you've got, when you got the rent and the food thing covered, then get back to the passion.
There you go. So, as somebody that is who's built and led multiple ventures, what do you look for in a business opportunity before deciding you want to invest the time and the resources into it? What do you look for?
Well, no, number one, in my case is a little different because I'm dealing in the world of media monsters.
Mm,
The Time Warners and the Foxes and
mm,
the Warners and all of that. Um, so first and foremost, is the idea good? Is it sustainable? Is it something that's going to stay not just on the financial level, but on the technology level and stuff? Like, again, I would not start even though I've been very successful in linear television with I would never do a linear TV network anymore because I think everything has changed and beyond that. And the next thing is digital when you want it, on the device you want it, kind
on
of stuff.
demand.
Um,
Yep.
So you yeah, but I look at saying, okay, is the idea good enough to sustain? But then the other thing I look for, I go, and I use Rupert Murdoch as the symbol of the devil. I mean, he's not really the devil, but I just use him as
Yeah.
that. And I go, what's going to happen when Rupert finds out I'm doing this? Can he
Mhm.
just throw money at it and cover me and just make me feel like I wasted all my time trying to do it? Because he's got a lot more money and a lot more resources than I do.
Mhm.
So unless I find that there's a way that I could protect the idea, I know sooner or later a big company is going to come and bury me. So it's very important to say, how do I keep the dogs off until I become big and can fight with them? So, and obviously, people don't realize what we did was very smart. I went out and got, because I was a cable operator, I related to cable operators really well. So very quietly, I went and signed cable operators up saying, okay, Larry, when you do this channel thing, which initially was called Movie Time, by the way, and then we changed the name. Um, and I signed up all the cable operators saying, okay, Larry, when you do it, we'll carry it. We're on. And then I went to the studios and said to the studios, hey, I'm going to do this and promote people to go to the movies.
Mhm.
I need you to sign on with me. And they were like, well, is anybody going to carry it? And I go, here, look, I've got all the cable operators. They said yes. So then I signed all the movie studios. And then when it was actually the people who owned the Home Shopping Network, which was huge at the time. And when they found out, they said, that's a great idea. We're going to do that. But I already had all the cable companies and I already had all the movie studios. And after they announced in the Wall Street Journal, somebody figured out that I took all the assets off the table, and stuff. And they had to, with their hat in hand, they had to go, well, oops, we're not doing that, I guess. And, they embarrassed themselves and stuff. But you got to look at that and say, what happens when the big guys find out? Can they simply just throw money and people at it and bury me? And if you can't answer that positively, then uh, if they can steal it, they will.
Mm. Mm. I mean, I feel like you're dropping so many gems here that is so valuable to that individual that is deciding, to not only start that business but also to venture off and potentially seek out you as a potential, investor into this idea. So I think everything that you're sharing is just so helpful and just it puts it in perspective because I don't think that people really consider what goes on behind the scenes, especially in Hollywood and especially in entertainment and media in general.
Mhm.
There's a lot of politics in it, and just bringing up Tom Time Warner. It is one of those that I've always heard. That's the big guns. If they're coming, that they're taking over. They're
Yeah,
taking over, and they're leaving nothing behind. And so, I mean, I've heard horror stories of just smaller projects that literally just get absorbed by this giant in the industry. So
yeah,
it does. It
no,
has a big impact.
yep, absolutely.
Okay, so well, switching gears because I know we're kind of getting up on our time. I want to talk to you a little bit more about your leadership and your legacy that you're leaving behind. So you've successfully navigated multiple industry shifts. I mean, we've talked about that a little bit in this conversation. How has your leadership style evolved over the last few years and really over the years? And what qualities do you think make a strong business leader?
Sure. Well, in time, when Timing took over the company, Manhattan Cable, that I worked for, they put in like one of their identified superstars, a guy named Nick Nicholas, who eventually became, when the merger happened, he became the chairman of Time Warner. But he was in as the president of Manhattan Cable and stuff. And, I was like that bridge between the technical guys and the Harvard and Yale's and stuff like that. But he really instilled in me the one thing that he always said, Larry, you could be firm, but you have to be fair. So no matter what you do, the people that work with you, for you, whatever, have to feel like you've treated them fairly. Not necessarily gave them everything they want, but they have to look and go, okay, that was fair. Um, and I've always used that and stuff. You couple that with, um, and this may seem a little silly, but it's absolutely true. Um, a lot of it has to do with upbringing. I mean, my parents were, pretty strict and work ethic and stuff like that. But and people always say to me, Larry, you've had a number one TV show in Russia for 10, 11 years. I had the number one TV show in Russia. Um,
Mhm.
and now I've got the only Western company that's allowed to do media in China. And I wrote a
Wow.
sitcom in China, though, which was the number one sitcom in Asia.
Yeah.
And people say, how do you navigate those cultures that you didn't grow up in and
Yes.
stuff like that? But and I use this example from when my dad passed and my mother moved to Florida. I'd go down to visit her, and I'd say, "Oh, tonight I want to go for Italian food at 8 o'clock." And my mom would go, "No, no, no." She goes, "We're going for the deli at 5:30." And I'm like, "Well, I don't eat at 5:30, and I don't want deli." And my mother's response was like, "You're in my house. If you don't like the rules, go stay somewhere else." And that's kind of what I've taken into all these other countries is I'm not there to change their politics or things like that. I'm there to provide them with a level of entertainment, hopefully put a smile on their face. Um, but I'm not there to change the government or the politics or get rid of communism or anything there.
Yeah.
I'm a guest in people's houses, so if I
Mhm.
treat it that way, um, we end up being in pretty good shape. But again, with most things, again, you could be tough, you could be firm, you can demand a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, people have to say I was treated fairly.
Mm. I like that. Firm but fair. Very, very good advice. Okay, so if you were starting fresh today, no prior success, what type of media business would you start and why?
Well, I'm a big TikTok fan.
Okay,
Um,
I like
but no,
it.
I think that there's a new phenomenon that is more in Asia than it is here, but it's coming here. Um, and the business model is miraculous. So you make a movie, um, typically a $500,000 movie, not for typical low budget rom com. This is what's going on in China now, which I just love the model. Um, so you take that 90-minute movie and you divide it up into 45 2-minute segments. Now, that requires you have to write it differently and stuff because you're writing in 2-minute arcs. So when we do it in Asia, I use soap opera writers because soap opera writers are used to writing in 2-minute arcs.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
so now I give you the first 10 episodes for free. So now you're watching 10 episodes of 2 minutes. You go, this is really good. I wonder what happens next. Well, to get to episode 11, you got to pay $1. To get to 12, you got to pay another dollar.
Mm.
So now with this $500,000 movie, I now have 35 2-minute episodes after that 10 million I gave you for free that you're going to keep paying $1 for because $1 big deal. I mean, it's not a
Yeah,
lot of money. Um, that's become an incredibly successful model in Asia, and you're starting to see it here. Things like reels and stuff there, and they're typically silly rom com kind of
yeah.
things, and they do amazingly well. I love that model. I would be if I wasn't doing a lot of other stuff now. I'd be doing a lot of those.
That's really smart. But then again, this is how you've been able to be so successful in your career and continue this success as you've adapted and navigated everything that's been going on. That's actually a really, really good idea. Look at you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you already said you're full of ideas. It's just which ones are the ones that's going to stick and you decide to move forward with, and putting that
yeah,
logical side into it too to make that decision. Yeah, no, I
yeah.
really like that. That's very cool. Okay. So looking at your career, what do you hope your legacy in the media as well as business world would be?
Well, I think if you just look at the name of the book, and I think we did a good job of coming up with. So it's called Off Script.
Mhm.
Never follow the crowd. Um, and that's the way we've been. Just because people tell you it's a good idea or a bad idea, don't listen to them. Do your own research. And again, I don't discount research, deep research and stuff, and look at it. You got to find that yes, it could be profitable. And I think what's really defined me more than anything else is I never look. I don't relish what was. I
Mm,
always want to know what will be.
mm,
Um, So I'm always looking, going, I don't, I like movies from the '80s, but music from the '80s, but now I'm listening to rap and all kinds of K-pop and J-pop and
Okay.
um, so I want to know where it's going, not where it was. I mean, it's nice to know where it was because you could adapt, you could look at stuff historically and say, you know what, I could modernize that, and again, but it's always look forward. Go, where is it go? Where is AI going?
Yeah.
And what are the possibilities that? I mean, if you look at it, I mean, GBT. If you look at where GBT was, and now we're what, a year into, we're GBT 4 going on 5. We're a year later. It's 800 times more powerful than it was a year ago.
Yes.
Just the implications are staggering.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I'm just looking forward to seeing what it's going to do as we continue to move forward, and just how it's going to make everyone's lives just so much more easy. I think that's the biggest thing, is like, how is it going to make your life easier? How is it going to
Yeah,
make your work more efficient? How does it make you become better at analyzing and really honing in on your messaging and all of those things? I'm just looking forward to it. So I'm excited. I was an early adopter and I still love it. I found myself the other day asking it just silly things outside of work and productivity. I was asking like, "Oh, well, what would pair well with this dish that I'm doing?"
yeah.
And it was just spitting out stuff within seconds, something that I probably would have been doom scrolling for like
Oh,
30 minutes trying to find, okay, what pairs well with this and all that, and just kind of looking at searches. It spit that out in a matter of seconds. So there's just something to it. And my dish ended up being fantastic, by the way. Probably not as good as yours, being that your passion is cooking.
yeah.
But it was kind
Oh,
of cool to have that, and just to see it grow just even in this year alone, it's just been amazing. So I'm
yeah,
looking.
I've never written a book before, so I knew nothing about how you market a book and all of that stuff. But quite honestly, I designed the entire social media campaign using AI, and
Wow.
um,
Yeah.
and people are amazed. My book became a bestseller in 4 days,
Wow.
and I just
Incredible.
had a whole AI based campaign, and it just told me what to say on what platforms, and designed everything for me, and stuff like that. And literally 4 days, we were bestseller in 4 different categories, which people said is unheard of, but just shows you
Yeah.
what understanding how to harness the technology, what that can really do for you.
I mean, seriously. I mean, that is amazing. So you're still breaking records, shattering records, and placing your stamp. I love it. I love all of this. Okay, so I know that we are up on time, but is there anything you want to share before we wrap? How can we support you? How can we check out what you're doing? What are some upcoming events you have? Like, tell us. And then how can we get in contact with you? That's always a good one too.
Sure. I well, I'm on all the social platforms, so you can always find me there. You can email me at ljn@ljnmedia.com. And I think a lot of people enjoy reading the book. I mean, I'm finding like a lot of people are coming to me and tell me the book inspired them.
Mm,
Because essentially, I was the boy least likely to succeed,
yeah.
um, but somehow I did. Um, but the book is out. It's called Off Script. You get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. And the thing about the book that people find amazing is it's 100% true. People read it and they go, Larry, this is not possible. It just couldn't have happened. I mean, there's stories about that when we first met OJ, and OJ and I were like screaming at each other that we're going to beat each other with a baseball bat, um, and things like that. And I was the first person ever to bring Vladimir Putin to the United States. I was doing a big music festival in Russia, and he was the vice mayor of St. Petersburg, and we were doing a big cocktail party, press event, and uh, he came to the U.S. with me and stuff like it. So there's all that stuff, and people just read it and they go, "This is not possible. It didn't happen." And the thing is, it all did happen.
Wow, wow. I mean, that's incredible. And I bet OJ learned quickly FAFO. I know what
Yes,
that means. You're from Coney Island. You don't play that. So I would have
yeah,
loved to be
that,
a fly on the wall for that one, cuz you don't you y'all get down. Y'all get down in Coney Island.
oh yeah.
Ain't no
Uh,
pushovers. in Coney Island.
No, no. It
Well,
was
you learn quick.
I was, I was the treasurer of the gang, not the killer. You know,
Hello.
they go, you understand money, so you'll take in the dues,
Yes,
you know. That
yes,
was it.
he's a
It
funny
saved
guy.
me from all the fighting and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But yeah.
Well, this has been such a great conversation. I'm just so so happy that I had the opportunity to speak with you and just hear more about your journey and your amazing book that's out now. So definitely, we'll be checking this out, and I encourage everyone else to do the same. We'll be sharing some links so you can go ahead and get your copy of this incredible book, and just to hear more and really learn more about this story and how it can apply to what it is that you're wanting to grow, what you're wanting to do, and build it into something that's actually profitable and successful. I think that's the name of the game in business. How can we build this to be profitable and successful and worthwhile? So I thank you again so much, Larry. This has been amazing, and I definitely want to stay in touch.
All right. Take care now.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye bye.